pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, our agenda tonight is as follows. Number one, Paulson Development Site Plan. Applicant seeks to construct a two-story medical building on property located at 112 Chesney Avenue. Paulson Development is the applicant. Number two, Renina, waiver of subdivision. Applicant seeks to subdivide approximately 6.6 acre parcel to create two new parcels containing 2.96 acres and 3.65 acres on property located at 137 Tamarack Road. Paul Bernini is the applicant. Number three, Delaire, is that how you pronounce that?
Allard, Deer,
Delaire,
yeah.
okay. I guess there was no.
Neither of which are here, which are
Ground.
concerning to me.
We'll go with the letter. Waiver of the subdivision. Applicant seeks to subdivide the property at 103 Hickory Court, distribute the acreage between the adjacent parcels of 105 Hickory Court and 5 Ledgewood Drive. Tim Delaire and Christina Delaire are the applicant. Number two, Santoro, minor subdivision. Applicant seeks to subdivide property located at 182 Bull Mountain Road. Vincent Santoro is the applicant. Number five, Leon site plan amendment. Applicant seeks to amend an amendment to an existing site plan to add a proposed drive-through coffee shop on the existing commercial property located at 660 Music Road. David Leon is the applicant. And six on our agenda is further discussion on the proposed Brunswick zoning law amendments. Okay, first on our business agenda is the review and approval of the minutes for July 7th. This was included a joint public hearing between the planning board and the zoning board of appeals. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those minutes? Are there any corrections, additions, amendments? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as they have been submitted. Second. There's a second. I guess for the record, since Andy isn't here, I should say who the seconds are and so forth. So just for the.
I'll take a note of that. Who was the,
That was seconded by Don Henderson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. I guess until Andy gets here, I'll make the report.
yeah, what I'm not seeing is anybody here from number 2 and number 3, so I was just gonna step into the office behind me and give those folks a call. They're supposed to be here.
Okay. Well, we'll jump right to number one.
And then Mr.
Paulson Development Site Plan. It might be a little informal tonight for some odd reason. We just seem to have lost it already.
I prefer that.
Okay. All right.
My name is Greg Beswick, representing Paulson Development. I'm here this evening just to give a brief update, go over the minutes from last month. I'll start with the Mr. Golden's request that we go to the ZBA because we requested 36-foot height versus 30. That application will be delivered to the ZBA tomorrow, and it'll be on the agenda for the next ZBA.
Okay.
We had some discussion, very brief discussion, about the potential for pedestrian access to Brunswick Plaza. So I brought this grading plan just to discuss this briefly. The slopes here are 2.5%. This is the Brunswick Plaza entrance. There's no sidewalk connection. Pedestrians would have to walk on the road to get into Brunswick Plaza. We don't think that's a very safe approach, and all of that is on private property.
So just to clarify that, you suggest that you not pursue any type of pedestrian crosswalk or anything like that?
That's correct, for the reasons I stated.
Anybody have any questions on that?
Just for the record, the contours that you mentioned? Maybe I misheard you.
They're 2.5 to 1.
Okay, but you said 2.5%.
No, 2.5 to 1.
Thank you.
Wayne, do you have any comments on
Yeah,
that?
typically you don't provide pedestrian access where there's no existing facilities. If you don't provide a crosswalk when there's nowhere to go, it's typically is not what you want to do, because you're sending people somewhere where there's no refuge, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to put pedestrians into a situation where it's a safety problem, so unless there's some plan to do sidewalks and everything everywhere, I would agree with Frank that you don't want to provide a crossing when there's no facilities.
Just to check my memory, there is no sidewalk going up Chesney Avenue, is it?
You know, there might be a little turn in at the intersection, that's it.
Yeah.
It's all on Route 7.
Okay.
And the sidewalks in the plaza kind of end
Actually, they
forward of that intersection.
right, they end back here.
Well, it is kind of a crazy intersection. You have the entrance, which I guess is actually the roadway owned by the Brunswick apartment complex, is that correct?
Right.
So, all right,
I mean, it's not really a pedestrian destination, or nor would somebody, I suppose, if they wanted to go have a cup of coffee, what is that, Mocha Blend?
yeah,
It's still not a very pedestrian-friendly intersection there between where you come off from Chesney and that other road to the apartments, and you got the other section that goes to Price Chopper.
yeah.
It's just not a very pedestrian-friendly spot to even get to that sidewalk. It's long and open.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
We received fire department comments, 2 rounds of fire department comments, which we have. The latest ones, I believe, were dated 6/30/2022. We have no issue with any of those comments, and we will formally address them with any comments the planning board and Wayne has in our next submission.
Yeah, those are pretty standard.
Wayne had asked if we do.
Excuse me, did they request a copy of the drawings to evaluate accessibility to the building on all sides?
They did get Mr. Goldman provided them with a drawing,
Okay,
which they responded to the second drawing
okay,
on 6/30.
okay.
Wayne had requested a site business evaluation at the driveway. We completed all field work this week. We'll have a final report for you next week. We'll submit that both to Mr. Goldman and one other thing that wasn't on the minutes, but something that we're investigating is we are proposing to tie into what is now private sewer. I know Wayne has copied on the email. So we are waiting for a schedule from, we have two contractors lined up to do jetting camera from this manhole where we propose to connect to Route 7. Mr. Bradley will witness that, and from there he'll decide if that's acceptable. If it is, then we will do the appropriate documentation to turn that section of sewer over to town. That's really all the updates I have. I have a couple of requests. I'd like to request that the board consider declaring themselves, the intent to declare themselves lead agency so we can start seeker.
Okay.
And I know we have to go to the ZBA. Is it possible to set a public hearing, a joint public hearing for the ZBA and the planning?
I got to give you a denial letter first for the ZBA.
Okay.
And I also have a question as to, I got to take a look at the parking count. I'm not sure if you will need a variance for not opening up the rest of the parking spots, or we're just cool with keeping them as, held for the future. So if your number, for the building size comes up less than that, then you'll probably need another variance for that too. But as a matter of fact, I was looking for the plans there to get that letter started today. I wasn't successful. I got to ask Mike what he did with the plans. You did drop a set of plans off already, haven't you? To the building?
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, okay. I got to find out what he did with them.
We did ask them to use I believe that the zoning ordinance does allow bank parking, if I'm not mistaken. And at our last meeting, Andy had said that he was going to look into that.
Okay, yeah. Yep, let me look into it as
I
well.
didn't hear from Andy. I don't know.
I don't know the zoning parking regulations that well. Let me look into it.
I believe it is in there, and I thought he was going to get reviewed too.
He's been busy.
When he comes in tonight, like I said, he's supposed to be here approximately 7:30 or so, so I anticipate him coming in shortly. I will discuss with him about the lead agency and where we are with that procedurally. As far as the joint public hearing at this point, that's something we'll have to discuss also.
Okay, fair enough.
The ZBA would be involved with the height variance and what you said.
It's a possibly parking. We're not sure about parking. You can get multiple variances for the same low price.
That meeting won't go August 15th.
Obviously.
There ain't no way in hell we're gonna be able to set a public hearing by then.
Yeah.
So we have a meeting before that. Address some of those issues then. And then public hearing to be accepted. Because we can't, right, we can't schedule a public hearing until we go to the ZBA.
I was gonna say, you already have, you would be approving an illegal building if you did that.
Right.
He's got to get his variances first.
Right.
Do you have any questions on this?
We have this plan, or?
Yes. And you have the latest set of drawings. I haven't changed anything because I haven't got the comments from Wayne yet, and I only have the comment from the fire department, which I'll address.
Did you look at connecting it to the plaza?
And we did, we had that discussion prior to your arrival.
Has a letter been sent to the county this year?
No. We don't send a letter until the public hearing is set up, so we know that the plans are solidified.
Okay.
Once the public hearing is set up, then we send it down to the county.
Okay.
I would need another set of plans, Greg, to send down to the county.
Do you send them or do we?
We do. There's a form letter goes on the top of them. We send them on down.
All right.
If we have to apply for a parking variance as well, what sort of process? Do I just write you a letter requesting that?
I would write you a letter stating that you have to do that. And then the manner in which, that occurs for a variance, I mean, I assume that is something that is, variable within the zoning, if not allowed, as you say. If they have banked parking, then it's going to be a non-issue. So I've got to look into it.
Okay, our next meeting is the August 4th.
Let's see.
You want it to be on that agenda, just to keep things going?
I would like to do that.
Okay. Even though we would not be meeting with the ZBA before that meeting.
Yeah. Why don't you put it on the agenda?
Okay,
And if I have to pull it, I'll let you know.
that's fair enough.
I just I'd like to be able to address comments, any comments Wayne has, and address obviously the fire department comments as well, and submit a new set of documents for the board.
No problem.
I got a couple questions for Greg while he's here.
Absolutely.
I went through the long form
Mhm.
and in part E about the ag lands, where it asks if it consists of highly productive soils. I went through the seeker workbook. If that hasn't been, if that property hasn't been worked as a farm, as a field and so on, that should no longer be considered highly productive, that would be no.
But it's still in the.
It's in the ag, it can be in the ag district. but It does go through, the workbook goes through and kind of describes what they deem highly productive soils, and I didn't see where that would trigger a yes.
Okay.
Another question, one more question on the seeker form, the FBAF. We're asked about the officially designated publicly accessible federal, state, or local scenic or asset resource. You check yes on that. And identify New York State Route 2 as a scenic route. I think the scenic part of Route 2 is more than 5 miles away from there. You look up on their website, actually, scenic part of Route 2 isn't until you get to the Mohawk Trail. Which is not, it's a little more than 5 miles away. So I think you can check no on that one as well.
I know what happened, that's, I did the FEF on the mapping,
Yeah,
it automatically came up with that check, so I just used my way out.
it does come up with that?
Yeah,
Really?
I think most people in Brunswick would say it started at this Troy line. Most people on that side of Brunswick would say it started at the city line. Most people on Route 7 would say it's a state highway. So
Yeah,
look out for Target.
but it's not, Route 2 is not even a scenic byway in New York. It's all in Massachusetts. So I don't know why that pops up that
we can fix that one.
way. It's just a thing, yeah. I just have a couple of questions on the site plan and the grading plan. In some spots, you're gonna be filling like 8 feet.
Yes.
I'm assuming it's an unbalanced site. You know how much fill you're gonna have to bring in?
I don't have that with me. BBL did a gut fill analysis, so I can get that number for you.
Okay. I'm a little, I won't say confused, but I don't know if there's enough information on the south side of the site it seems like between where the road to the apartments is and the property line, you're lacking kind of some.
I'm sorry to catch that one. Lacking.
Topo. Is there a swale there?
Yeah, there is a small swale there existing.
Which way does it drain?
Right.
Yeah.
There's a small, swale rises, so it'll flow this way. Go across.
Okay.
So it is pretty light. It does come this way.
All right, so where you have the outlet,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna actually go into some type of shallow swale
Right.
into here,
Correct.
and then that ends up in this,
Correct.
stormwater area. The only real other issue I had is the way the contours are drawn. You have your proposed contours coming in at a sharp angle to your existing issue.
Got them off.
But I mean, yeah. Yeah, you can't really run contour in perpendicular to an existing contour. And it might adjust your area, what do you call it? Boundary of the disturbance.
Yeah. Double check that.
And I didn't really have any comments on the layout of the site plan or circulation or building. I didn't see where you had the height of your parking lot lighting. There's a lighting plan, but I couldn't tell what the height of the poles are.
We're at 15 with those, right? I think we're at 15 feet with those max.
They all meet. I can get-
Jennifer, we'll see if you notice, but there's two different sized
I can get a
poles.
specification.
They got variance.
Yeah, I think there was no details on the light plan.
No.
That might just be all you need.
Yeah, I think it might say,
Some details.
yeah. Right.
Oh, there it is.
I'm okay there.
What were they, Wayne?
15.
15.
Winner.
Winner. And that really was the bulk of my comments on the plans and the PDF. Still looking at the,
Do you have any other questions? I guess we're all set for
Okay,
tonight.
thank you.
Thank you, we'll see you on the fourth. Okay, second on our agenda tonight is, Renee.
Mr. Brunina is hung up in Albany at a job, and was not able to make the meeting.
Okay,
If, he said he had no problem with those proceeding in his absence, or we can wait for him to be here on August 4th.
okay. If I remember correctly, this is the one where he was splitting the lot, there was actually two lot line adjustments, is that correct? Is this that one?
I thought he was just purchasing the parcel from the neighbor
Okay.
along Tamarack Road.
Okay. I think I'm ahead of myself. The lot line. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at this? This was brought under new business in the last meeting. It seems like it's pretty straightforward. there any issues that we should be aware of, Chuck, on that?
That I'm aware of. It's
He's
a
gonna
go.
need to locate his driveway and just like this. About where the property line is, you can't see beyond property line on the road.
Okay.
The road goes down.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's like a,
Right about where the property line is, the road goes down, you can't see anything coming from the.
Yeah, but it says the vacant land not for residential development at this time. He's just joining it in with his existing parcel, is that correct?
it sounds as though he was going to put an addition on the house, and with that addition, with that parcel there, he won't have to come for a variance. He'll meet his side setback.
Thought he was gonna build a house for his son.
Now, this is,
Yeah.
just to verify, this lot here is part of this whole parcel, and this is going to Mr. Panini.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we had some discussion about that, especially with the well and so forth and so on. That was kind of close to the property line now. Is that correct? Okay. Anybody have any questions on this? Just a quick update, Andy, we're on second on our agenda, the Bernini, the gentleman couldn't make the meeting tonight. There's a waiver. We're kind of just going through it now.
On Tamarack Road.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty, it state that it's, well, there was some discussion just brought up about,
Site distances.
about the site distances for proposed driveway. There's no proposed driveway on it.
Yep.
But this is basically being joined into properties for non-development, as far as I can see, as far as selling a lot or anything. I'm not so sure that really applies in this case, but
Camarac is a county roadway, isn't it?
But
It is, yes.
Yeah, so the county would have to issue the driveway permit.
okay.
if he's merging it in, that's
Yeah, and
fine.
that's,
If he's,
the last thing I heard from him, it was a merging it in, and that when they put the addition on the house, he'd be able to meet the side setbacks.
Okay,
The house is the one on the left side of the page where it says one-story frame dwelling. Is that-
He lives in that home, yes,
Yeah,
him and
Lives
his,
in that house, and that's where the addition is going?
yes, yep. Yeah, and the way it's built into a hill, you really can only put it on the right side as you stand from the road and look at the house.
Where is
This
this?
is
Where is that on Tamarack Road? Just about across from the bus garage. You see the PMB Electronics sign out there, and that's the house.
any comments? I know you're only here for a couple of minutes, but
he's my daughter's boyfriend's cousin or uncle. That's not enough.
you want to be a recluse on that?
I could say,
Is that
that's
where
pretty
you're
high
going
up
with
the
that?
family tree.
Just in case.
3 times removed, but even that.
I know it wasn't, but I just figured you asked if there was anything else, so.
So on this one, is there a proposed new building lot? Or is it in the nature of a lot line adjustment?
It would be in the nature of lot line adjustment. Mr. Bernini is looking at putting addition on his home. And he wanted a little more land over on that side, so we didn't have to get a variance, and to give him a little more leeway as to what type of addition he'd be able to put on. There was some
Well, it's a
speculation.
3-acre parcel.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
exactly.
a lot line adjustment of a couple hundred feet.
Normally, you're right.
I
especially
would
with the
have to
variance.
assume, based on what you're saying, that, yeah, he's gonna put an addition on, but he may, somewhere in the future, take off 2 acres of that and sell it as a building.
Or build himself, right.
Now, is he proposing to merge his property with this one?
That's currently the plan, yes.
That would probably be one of the stipulations of this approval.
Right, so that a new building lot's not created, it takes some land emergence
Mhm.
into the existing, we'll call it homestead parcel.
Does he realize that?
I gotta be honest with you, I don't feel comfortably speaking for him. You know, these are questions you probably should ask him. Because I'm not currently, because what he said was this whole thing with his house and addition and all that wasn't going as good as he wanted when I was just speaking with him previously. And I, made the comment, I
Okay.
never do, but I mean, that could very well change and he may be saying, all right, I'm going to build on that lot. So,
Well, normally, we would like the applicant here.
yes. And the questions you ask, I don't feel,
I think we could
that I
say
know
we
the answer.
discussed it, we have some questions, and we feel that he should be present
which
before we act on this.
which is the way I left it with him. And
Okay.
I said, make sure you block August 4th because you'll be here on August 4th.
Okay. All right, then let's do that. Just as a note, we did receive a letter, handwritten letter from Mr. Hoteling, Dennis Hoteling, giving him the permission to handle all the paperwork associated with the purchase of the land. So we will adjourn this until our next meeting on the 4th. And please make sure he knows he has
Yes.
to be here.
Yep.
If you want to discuss some of these items, as far as this would be approved on the stipulation that it would be merged with his existing
Exactly.
property. And not creating another building. Okay, so he's adjourned to the 4th, okay. Next on our agenda is the Laird subdivision.
And again, no one is here for that. Called them up, left a message.
Okay,
That's the 3-2 split on Hickory and Ledgewood.
yeah, that's the one where there's 2 lot line adjustments.
Right. Yep, they're
Okay.
taking 3 lots and turning it into 2.
Just for some clarification, we had some discussion about that at the last meeting. And I was assuming that we were now under the impression moving forward that it was considered just one waiver with 2 lot lines. Is that,
I think that's a reasonable
yeah,
approach, certainly within the town's discretion and how they want to do it, but it's really one proposal.
I mean,
You're not creating a new lot. You're
Right.
actually taking-
we're actually
You're actually taking one out.
reducing.
We got to pay them.
What's that?
Say we have to pay them.
I mean, as a practical matter, it affects the town tax base. Eliminating one tax.
Well, technically, it involves 2 owners. You're dividing up a piece of property.
I thought that one owner owned all 3 lots.
That's what I thought.
That was my understanding.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I might have it confused with something else, okay. So since the applicant isn't here, we'll adjourn this also to the 4th. We're getting a lot done tonight here.
Quickly, yes.
Okay. Santora, minor subdivision.
And for Diallo, does
All right.
anybody want a bigger copy? Linda, do you have a small copy? Because they did provide larger copies.
I take it this application is strictly a different cover sheet for the waiver. It's pretty much all the same. That's what I determined. Okay, come on up. Tell us what you want to do. We know what you want to do, but
You know
for the
it.
record.
My name's Peter Cucci, I'm Vince Santaro's father-in-law.
Could you spell your last name for me, please?
Cucchi.
Thank you.
And we know why we had to, just did not qualify for a waiver.
Right, that's what the issues are.
All right. This parcel up here.
What's that?
I would assume by the drawing that Mr. Danskin is still the land surveyor.
Yes.
Okay, tell us what you want to do here.
Well, basically, we were looking to subdivide the full parcel, and I know there was, we did not do the waiver. So we did file for the minor subdivision. Basically, looking at just taking 5 acres off of the full parcel. And then, the builder will be applying for a building permit on the smaller parcel.
Okay. Well, one of the, did we get a corrected drawing from Mr. Danskin? He has it as a waiver map. Therefore, he doesn't have contours on this and things like that, that are required for,
Yeah, I didn't get a revised subdivision. Minor subdivision.
You didn't get that back.
I don't think so.
I didn't get it,
You didn't either.
unless you.
Oh, it was part of, it was handed out tonight.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
The young man, it should be, or it should have been in front of you.
There it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Stan, but that guy was kind of laid down with new business.
Okay.
I didn't get a map.
I didn't think it I didn't mention that.
Yeah.
Really long,
No map, Wayne?
There it is. Okay.
I didn't get a map.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I do have one extra copy here.
We got a short, EAF for a new, application page for, a minor subdivision. With no map. So, excuse the wait, we're gonna,
No map for anybody.
is the new map, you?
No, these are all waiver maps.
Yeah,
That's the one that I had before.
Okay, so it's the same map. Okay. Well, Mr. Danskin has to add a few things to this map. And he would know those things. He's been before us before. We need contours on the property, surrounding properties. We need, proposed driveway, if we have one. And a proposed, house, if there's one proposed to do that.
I am currently working with, septic engineer.
Yeah.
And the fellow, because based on the survey or the waiver that he did, Mr. Danskin did, the septic engineer could not work with that. He needed a detailed topo map for the septic system.
Yeah.
That I should have within the next couple of days, which should show the house position and all the contours on the lot where we're.
That's the map we need.
Okay,
Yeah, with an approximate location where the septic's going.
yeah, yeah. I'll definitely have that within the next.
I mean, you have 5 acres, so it shouldn't be a real
Yeah,
problem, so. Okay. Am I missing anything else? Mr. But Mark will know. He's done his report for the town of Brunswick and so forth, so he knows what the requirements are for a minor subdivision. Any details that are required, he should be able to put those on.
okay.
How do you go in and out of this lot now?
Sorry.
How do you go in and out of this lot now? Is it across the 5 acres or is it?
Oh, into the large lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, right across the 5 acres.
so you're gonna need so you have the 5 acre lot has a driveway.
Yeah, currently.
You're gonna
yeah.
need a driveway for the remaining ones.
Okay.
So,
There
in
will
some
be,
way,
there is access at the bottom of the 5 acre parcel, approximately 100 feet
I can't
wide.
tell what site distance is this way or that way, or, you know,
There's
or if
also one,
it's like this.
True. Yeah.
there's also one above, right?
But if he's got an existing driveway and he's putting it with that lot, then he needs another driveway for the remaining lands. It's gotta show site distances and,
Okay.
you know, you don't wanna put it where somebody coming around the corner is gonna run into a school bus or something.
Okay.
But Mark knows that.
Yeah, you're right, there was access on the top too.
There's access on the top too.
I mean, doesn't matter where they put it, but they have to put something.
Okay. All right. You can check with the building department, Mr. Gaskin.
Okay.
If you have any issues with that. We can't really move forward until we see those and be able to comment on those.
Okay.
This will require a public hearing. So once we get all those information and it's complete, to a point where we can have that material available to the public, we can schedule a public hearing.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions? Does anybody have any questions of you at this point? Okay, I think we're all set. Do you think you'll be able to get us that information by our next meeting, or?
We should be able to, yes.
Okay, and we will put you on the agenda also for the fourth. Let me see what else we got. Please, starting to get things packed.
Russ, there's 2 carryovers.
Yeah, there's 2 carryovers. We have
Whitbeck and Atlas, yeah.
and we have Whitbeck. So now we're at 6 items on our agenda. Just as a point. Okay, you're all set. We'll put you off.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, before we go on to Mr. Leon, I do want to backtrack a little for the benefit of Andy. There was a couple of questions on the Olson development.
It's on Greg in the parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He requested, that the planning board be the lead agency and so forth.
What he mentioned to me was, can the secret process be started? And the answer is yes. But the first order of business then would be, and I told him, since the variance is needed, right, for the height, we need to coordinate lead agency. We'll send out the lead agency coordination notice. That can be done. And then, once that time frame has passed, the zoning board meets
15th.
August 15th, so you could declare lead agency, not at your first, but probably your second meeting in August.
Okay.
And he also raised with me, at least in the parking lot, the option of a joint public hearing. And my thought on that is, certainly on the larger solar projects or the kind of large-scale commercial projects, that's been entertained, but in projects like this, generally, it hasn't been a joint public hearing. Both boards kind of have concurrently, but they hold their own hearings.
Yes.
So I would think on a project of this size, there would not be a joint public hearing, it just proceed concurrently.
Okay.
Does he need a variance for the parking?
Yeah, that was the other question. Is bank parking a variable?
Oh,
I've got to look into that.
Yeah, you and I do, because I must admit, I didn't look at our code. I don't believe our code addresses banking.
He claimed it did, but I'm not certain.
What's that?
He claimed it did, but I'm not certain. I haven't had to do that much
Possible in
with
that
parking.
parking regulation?
Yeah.
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 So we need to look at that for the next meeting.
okay.
It may take, but I'm not sure.
Does anybody have any questions for Andy on that? Does everybody feel understood what we have to do there? Okay. Moving forward, number 5 on our agenda is Neon.
And before you jump to that, not that it matters, but my schedule is, I'm actually going to be away starting tomorrow, so the lead agency coordination notice I'll send out the first week of August.
Okay. All right.
Good evening. Walt Minham, J Engineer, representing the applicant. As you know, a colleague, Dennis Lynch, was here for the July 7th planning board meeting. We went over the public comments and responses, and then also a secret determination was made by this board. By that being done, we were at the ZBA meeting on Monday night for the parking use variance. The project was granted that variance. And this is why I'm back here tonight in front of the planning board for a possible determination.
Okay. This is maybe a little off the subject, but I have to bring it up. I know on the original projects, there was some artist renditions of what the buildings are gonna look like and so forth and so on. Had some comments on the Kentucky Fried Chicken building. It is rather vivid, it's their trademark building. But we had some conversations with Harbor Freight, long discussions about the outside and exterior of their building and so forth and so on, with some of the same type of characteristic color schemes and everything like that. And but that went quite, it was a struggle at times. But the point I'm trying to make is we don't have an architectural review board per se. That pretty much falls on the applicant and us working out certain things. Do you recall ever doing a presentation of what that building was going to look like? Did we ever receive anything?
I believe so. I have to go back. It was probably 4 years or so ago.
Yeah, that's it.
Actually, I was just looking at it the other day in the files, and I saw a red.
Oh, I thought you were looking at the building the other day, okay.
No, I did not see the building the other day. But I'm guessing it's with the white and red stripes. And
Russ, it's my recollection, and Chuck can confirm, there were renderings of the building.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yes,
And-
submitted, and there was a number of meetings in front of the zoning board on the signs, I guess.
Well, that was just
And all
it.
the
I mean, I
Exterior,
could not,
yeah,
yeah.
building
I could
signs.
not find anywhere where a white and red pattern such as that was actually trademarked to Kentucky Fried Chicken. If it was, I would have had to make the whole building part of their sign package. But I did not see any trademark authorized by KFC to use, to be solely use of that red and white stripes.
All right.
I did, when I was going through it all, I don't know where they did this, but they did build a bucket building. They made a building that looks like their chicken bucket.
I seem to recall that somewhere in the news or something like that. All right.
So I guess it
so
could
the
be,
potential there.
yeah,
was-
it could be
was-
worse.
Could be worse.
And
I just thought I would bring that up just because
Sure.
I had received some comments and Mr. Henderson had received some comments and had some comments himself. And,
I'll note for the record as well, in front of the ZBA, there were several meetings, there was public hearing on the proposed sign package, and there was a number of signs that were eliminated as a result of those zoning board proceedings. So the zoning board did grant the sign variance.
Was it 11 signs they came for, 11 or 14? There was a bunch of signs.
The building had a significant number of additional decals and logos and everything, and the zoning board reduced them.
okay. I would just, just for the record.
Well, carry Mr. Ossoff's thought forward. Do you have current renderings of color schemes for Aldi's, Roma Jones, and Wendy's? Do you know what they look like?
Those were all previously submitted, yes.
Well,
All these,
we have this for Roma Jones. That's the last thing I've seen.
no, we had a submission this last time. You should have had a set of some renderings.
Because I know we changed the pedestrian area where they
Yep.
were sitting on the covered line. So this is what it is, it's gonna be blue and white and brown.
Yes.
Now, I know previously, Andy, on some of the PDD applications, part of the approval process through the town in some of these projects allowed for review of architectural drawings and building specs by the planning board.
Correct.
In this particular case, is that a provision of approval of?
Well, in this
The
particular
overall-
case, it's not a PDD.
Okay,
It's just site plan review.
okay,
It was previously in front of the town board because of the connection, the original proposed connection to Ferdinand, using the paper street connecting to the neighborhood. That was a town board action, but that was the only part of it. Absent that, this was a commercial site plan application in front of the planning board, because the site is zoned for these uses. Yeah.
and actually, the Kentucky Fried Chicken is its own separate
And it's not a separate parcel.
That's right. Do they lease that parcel entirely? Is that what it is? Or do they
They
own?
they own it. KFC owns it.
Oh, okay.
It was divided off as a parcel and for purchase.
All right, moving forward. Is there any engineering comments?
They've taken care of all the engineering comments.
Okay.
Does that include the issue that National Grid had with stormwater and that?
I did not copy that letter to you, but their engineer did send a letter out stating that they were okay with the plan. I failed to get that to you. Let me get that to you now. That was some time
That
ago.
was part of the public hearing, wasn't it? Wasn't a comment from the public hearing that officially on the record?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as part of the comments from the board, they wanted to see proof of communications with National Grid about the transformer relocations and things like that, so that was provided. And also, I believe, I can't recall her name, but National Grid's attorney was at the public hearing.
Jessica Lay.
Yes. And she was part of the National Grid team that we were communicating with for the grading in the back.
Okay. Okay. So procedurally, Andy, where are we at this point? Can we move forward?
Yes, procedurally, the public hearing was held jointly with the zoning board. Seeker's been completed. The use variance for the parking area was approved this past Monday evening at the zoning board. The application was referred to the county, and you have the county referral and recommendation. It indicates that it does not conflict with county plans and local consideration shall prevail. So procedurally, the next step is for consideration of action on the proposed amendment. And if technical issues have been addressed, it's queued up for determination.
Okay. Do we need a secret determination?
But that's been completed. Wayne stepped you through that last
Okay.
week.
All right. Okay then.
I just had one comment, sorry, on the building elevations. I'm having a difficult time reading the overhang height over the windows and not to delay this, but perhaps a sign could be added to the driveway entrance so that people understand the height that they're gonna drive under, so there's no option for them to get out once they're in there. So the o-
Entering or exiting?
Yeah, so the overhang at both the pay window here and the
Yep.
pickup window seems pretty low. And if somebody were to enter back here, come around the building, they have no option to get out. Like, they have to back all the way out. If, say, they were 14 feet and this is only 11.
Oh, what that height is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can certainly, provide that.
I just
as
saw a
a-
terrible video that
As a,
don't want
Do
to
you
share
have
with
video?
anybody.
verify what the height of the canopy, I'm guessing it's a standard height. I know a lot of drive-throughs didn't have canopies originally, but now, just you're not reaching out into the inclement weather. A lot of them are putting the canopies on to kind of keep you dry, grabbing your food or drink.
I don't think it's a bad addition to the building. I just hate to see it get ripped off by somebody who's not cognizant.
Any other comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the amendment.
Sure.
Russ, maybe just for the record, just to make it clear for everyone and see if there's any additional. I went back through what the original conditions on the project included as amended when eliminating the Ferdinand Avenue connection. And if I could kind of read through those and see if you hear them, if there's any different or additional. So compliance with pedestrian access throughout the project site is shown on the site plan, including sidewalk and crosswalks. Brunswick, for the access driveway to stormwater detention pond, subject to final comments of the water department. I think there's been a lot of work done on that. Easement must be provided in favor of the commercial parcel over retained parcel for access to the stormwater management. No water or sewer utilities to extend beyond the commercial project site and shall not be extended in any manner onto the retained parcel to the south as part of this commercial site plan approval. Utilities ended at the
They stopped at the,
back of all these.
correct. Prior to getting into the R25.
Right. Now, maybe this is one that you should note. There's no retaining wall left on the project.
That's correct.
So there was a condition, retaining wall shall be stamped by structural PE and submitted to the building department. That's been eliminated.
There is some type of retaining structure. It's not a wall.
Reinforced slope.
Yeah, it's a reinforced slope. So,
And that has been provided. Chuck, did you get a copy of that? The reinforced slope from Terracon?
No.
Thought you were on that.
So we can note that this condition could be modified to.
modify to engineered reinforced slope.
Was that the one with the snow piling? Well,
It would have come from James Williams of Galusha.
okay.
I think, I got it.
I got it, yep. Yeah,
We'll make it.
July
clear
5th.
That should be applied.
And
Site preparation of the Aldi site shall be performed under the supervision of a geotechnical engineer. I think that's good. All required NYSDOT work permits for traffic signal installation and improvements to Hoosier Grove corridor filed with the building department.
You have the DOT, copy of the DOT work permit?
I don't have a copy of that work permit.
They
DOT.
probably submitted that.
Yeah.
There will be required stormwater management facilities maintenance and easement agreement for the stormwater facilities that still needs to be executed. Cross easements for access, parking, drainage, utilities, and commercial site plan related to subdivision of parcels. Have those been completed, Paul?
They have, and I thought I provided a copy, but
I don't know that I've seen it, not that necessarily I do, but they have to be filed, just to make sure everything, so the cross easements. Water and sewer infrastructure subject to final comments of the water department. Compliance with the landscaping plan and the site plan set, I'll get to that in a moment. Copy of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit to be filed with the building department. There's a Corps permit on this project? Okay. You have that, Jim? We'll make sure we get that filed. Copy of the Rensselaer County Health Department approval to be filed with the building department. Compliance with EDC's general stormwater permit for construction activities, that's still open.
We have to modify it. Right? You had to modify the slip for this extra,
that
changes to the
was,
site plan. It was minor, very minor.
right, because the basin was sized with this in mind for site plan amendment 1, where we removed the basin behind KFC and made the one in the back 2.5 times the size of what it was originally.
You keep the slip on site, correct?
There is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so whatever latest slip should be kept on site.
Submission of required sign permit application. Dedication of land in the area of Hillcrest Avenue was shown in the site plan to the town of Brunswick in compliance with all dedication requirements to the town. There's some land along Hillcrest that's being dedicated to the town as part of this.
yes.
We just have to make sure that that gets completed. Property owner of the project site shall keep such property clear of all rubbish, waste, paper, debris, or garbage of any nature that is an ongoing permission for the site. Compliance with the lighting plan. Add a sidewalk from the approximate area of the Hillcrest Hoosier Road intersection from the existing sidewalk along Hoosier Road corridor, and connecting to the parking lot in proximity to the location of the proposed KFC. Was that added?
That's
It
in.
was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a condition regarding velocity. Obviously, there was a condition to come in and amend it. The connection to Ferdinand was not pursued, which you did. The zoning board, Monday evening, in connection with the use variance, did reiterate its prior conditions and also required existing maintenance of the existing vegetation between new proposed parking area and the balance of that R9 property in compliance with the landscaping area. So we'll note that that's a zoning board condition too with the use variance. So those are all of the existing conditions in the record for the project. So in connection with this amendment, is there any additional conditions that the board would consider? Any more, Wayne?
I can't think of any.
So any type of amendment would have to include the existing conditions of the original approval. Is that right?
Yes, what I would propose is that if the board's inclined to grant the amendment, that all prior conditions are reiterated to the extent that we've reviewed, subject to modification that the retaining wall condition will now read engineered reinforced slope.
Is it the board's desire to proceed with this? I will entertain a motion Make that motion? Tough crowd. Huh? I'll make a motion.
There we go.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on that?
We have a list of items now that we get the check.
Yes.
Okay, so when do you expect to see those?
I may have time tomorrow to start emailing the majority of the ones that he's requesting. The Terracon report, DOT, easements, Army Corps, Billcrest easement, I see that all off.
It's a good chunk of them.
Any other discussion? Moving forward, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're all set?
Okay, thank you. Everyone.
So that concludes the business agenda. Just going over some, before we get into some of the zoning law amendments discussion. We did receive one comment, as far as I can tell, via email from a Barbara Heron and a Patricia Bush.
She spoke, she was here and spoke at the meeting.
Okay. This is in regards to obviously the Atlas Renewables application. Both are residents of the Brunswick Meadows. And basically reiterated some of the comments that were there about the solar panels being too close to wetlands, so forth and so on. So this letter, or I should say email, was forwarded to the applicant. Chuck,
I will check that. That's a darn good question.
thank you.
It should have been the date of closure for the public comments written was today. So as of midnight, if nothing else comes in, we will get that singular email to him.
I believe everybody got a copy of that tonight. Right, that's correct. Okay. Now, there was a comment I was gonna make about some of the items that were on.
We did have Brunswick Meadows on there. Or, I'm sorry, the Brunswick Acres.
That'll be on for the 4th.
Well, the other one we had on the two that were,
No
besides
shows.
tonight, was the Cliffback
They're going to be carried over yet.
and the Atlas Renewables.
Yeah, right, and then what I have thus far, Russ, is Atlas, Whitbeck, Paulson's coming back,
Yep.
Renina,
Yeah,
Doward, I
Mhm.
don't know how to pronounce that,
Laird.
Delaird, Santoro, and Brunswick Acres.
Now, we also received some new business.
Yeah, this does not have an application. This is from a phone call that Wendy received.
The question was, is whether this is a waiver or it's gonna be a minor subdivision.
Exactly, yes.
This is one of those things, this is this little thing over here.
Yeah.
Lindy and I had some discussion about that today. And she thinks it should be a waiver, but of course, what is gonna happen here is this. You look at this parcel. They wanna do a lot line adjustment
Between number 6 and 5.
between 6 and 5.
But pretty much a
Combine those
line,
two.
line erasure.
Yeah.
Erasure. One thing we ought to note is it is all the same SBL. there is a land hook across Elmview from, onto that other lot. So that's all.
Why don't you just run us through this real quick?
Is 5 this house here?
5 is that house there.
And what about this house here?
5 is this house.
What's this house here?
That is the house that owns all of this property around it.
You can't have 2 houses on one lot.
Right, that's lot 5, that's their own lot right there. And all of this is owned by that house.
All right, you
There's
said
a land hook across here.
you're gonna take away the line between 5 and 6.
Yes, so this lot line will be removed between 5 and 6, and 5 will own that entire lot on that side of Elmview. From there up to the turn, or if you want to call it an intersection. Now, what is in question is below that, there is some speculation of putting another lot there. I mean, if you create a lot, that's not a waiver, right? So there was some speculation about they may create a lot down here.
Down here,
No, that would be, you got it right
oh, down,
Yeah, right there, that corner. So, like, kind of recreate that down here. You just gotta make sure that line has gotta put somewhere where.
so they want to do this all in one shot. Is that correct?
I guess, yeah.
Now, is this going to be done for sale? Or is it
I
going to be
do, I
done
did not
for,
speak with the woman, I do not know what her, she's looking at selling the whole place.
so she's not subdividing this other lot here for a son or daughter or a relative?
Not that I'm aware of.
Where is this?
Elmview is off of, is it Grandview? It's Grandview that comes up. It just goes out into a big field. Yeah,
All right, where's Grandview?
off of Pinewood.
All right, we're off of Pine.
In the Hamlet area.
Eagle Mills?
Yeah, in that section down
What's in there
yeah.
where Harrington's got that
Grand-
big field?
Grandview comes right up to the area that it's still a hamlet. The hamlet designation goes one lot past Grandview. So, yeah, those are. I
As you're
assume
going, as you're
those
going
are-
towards Eagle Mills, it's before the old Nichols estate, right?
It's not too far up.
And Nichols place, it's just before there, there's a street that goes there.
Where Seagroves used to live, on the right, behind you, across the road there.
Let me,
Well, houses, though.
Is it before you get to where Bush built those houses?
I thought they were at the end of
So our Chuck, are you asking for like how we want to proceed with this when they put an application in?
I believe that is the direction this woman would like. I mean, if they are serious, there's two things. I think one thing definitely has to be answered. If you're creating a new lot, then it's not a waiver.
Yeah.
Right? And so if she is thinking about putting that lot over in this corner, then it would not be a waiver, it'd be a minor.
That's right. If she's just talking
So
about,
if she is, just wants to do that lot line adjustment there between 5 and 6, then that would be a waiver.
that would be my interpretation of that.
So she has to make the decision on possibly creating the other lot.
So one lot is not a waiver.
Well, one lot can be a waiver. Remember, if you're creating a lot,
Oh,
it
that's true.
still could be a
Yeah,
waiver.
yeah, yeah.
Russ's question earlier was, is it for a family member?
Right.
The board in the past has handled those as waivers. What we had discussed in a meeting or two ago was if the lot is proposed for commercial sale, then it's probably a good idea to have a little bit more information than just a simple map, like topo and appropriate driveway location, grading plan.
Can't remember how we're done with that end road.
Yep.
Which it says,
Yeah, you're not going to approach 12 on that road. I'll confirm that now.
So if she's looking to sell everything, that probably leans more in the direction of
Minor.
money.
If she just wants to do the lot line adjustment for now.
Okay.
Combining 5 and 6, we'll consider that as a waiver, lot line adjustment.
Mhm.
If she wants to keep on going and create this lot, then she's into a minor subdivision.
Sounds good.
Okay. Now, we can have some discussion on the zoning laws. You want to have any continued discussion? I will say that they did have a
Get some-
public hearing.
Correct.
There was some comments made at the public hearing regarding setbacks mostly.
Correct.
One in particular was, actually it was Tim Casey, who was on our board before, representing Reifenberg. They have properties along, and they were concerned about the setbacks. If the setbacks went through, that they would basically, in one case, lose like 12 acres of usable, developable property or something. It was.
Right.
It was interesting.
It was, and I'll note, so the board kind of gets the full picture. The setback that was discussed, and there were a few comments on it, and since the public hearing, Russ, we should know there's been one additional written comment that still raised the same issue. There's a section of the zoning law that requires buffer between commercial and a commercial use and residentially zoned property. And one of the subsections is if the use is an industrial use, then there has to be a minimum 200-foot buffer between the use and the off-site residential. The way it's written currently is either the residential district boundary or the residential use. So that was the 200-foot setback that was raised. But this was not proposed to be amended in any way. That's in the current zoning law. That was approved in 2017. It's not being proposed to be amended. But comments were received on it, so the town board will need to, in some manner, address that.
Okay.
What do they consider industrial?
Hmm?
What do they consider industrial?
Well, it just uses the term industrial, so under the code, I think, it's subject to Chuck's review, this always falls on you, Chuck,
No doubt.
is if it generally says industrial, that will include both light and heavy industrial use.
This also could apply to a case like Atlas Renewables, where
Well, that's a very good question.
part of that property is light industrial. I think where most of the solar is.
I'll give you my thought on that. Okay, first of all, is in the heavy industrial district, that's only the quarry, past, up onto your Callahan's quarry. Heavy industrial, light industrial definitions?
She handed it to me.
Yeah.
The heavy industrial is like a factory, right?
Not in our zoning, heavy industrial is
It's-
mining.
I can tell you, despite the definition, the only industrial district in the town currently is
The quarries.
Callahan's quarry.
Mm.
And that's a quarry use, and that will continue to be a quarry use for some time. There's no other heavy industrial districts in town. The issue is the light industrial district, and that's down along Oakwood, and that does include the property Atlas, and it includes Reifenberg's property, and it includes property owned by Bill Bradley, on which he's currently building self-storage units. I guess the question, and I don't know the answer to this, but actually, can I see that in the one? 49. It's actually useful. So this is in section 160-46 of the current zoning law, requires screening for non-residential uses. And it's subsection C. God bless you, you've got this circle. He must have noted it before. Industrial uses shall be located not less than 200 feet from any residential district boundary or a residential use, and an effective visual and noise buffer shall be provided. So, Russ, I think the question is, it's not determined by the district, it's determined by the character of the use. industrial uses. So my question on the solar, and I don't know the answer to this because I haven't analyzed it, is the solar an industrial use? It's not in it's in the business section of the use table, solar, commercial solar. It happens to be allowed and located in a light industrial district, but is the use classified as light industrial? I don't know that. So does that apply to the Atlas project? That's something that we'll have to look at. But uses that fit within the definition of heavy and light industrial, this would apply. And you have to have that buffer. That's how it currently reads, and that's how it's read since 2017.
Can you get a variance on that?
You can always apply for an area variance, correct, on the 200 feet, subject to the area variance standards, zoning board determination. But again, the comment's been raised in the context of the current proposed amendments about the extent of that required buffer and whether it's appropriate or not. So I think that's something that will be looked at.
So that really doesn't involve our discussion as far as viewing it.
It's an interesting comment. Again, it wasn't part of the proposed amendments, but the comment was raised, so it'll be addressed. But what was referred to you were the proposed amendments.
Well, the other thing is we got this letter, I picked up a copy of this letter from this lawyers for Chip Olson.
Yes.
Isn't that somewhat the same thing, or
Those comments generally are directed to the proposed amendments dealing with agricultural uses.
Yeah.
I'll take a minute and, again, for this board's, ultimately, whatever is approved by the town board will be what's effective. But what's being proposed right now is to eliminate the agricultural overlay districts. In fact, eliminate all the overlay districts and create fixed zoning districts in the town. But on the agricultural uses, the proposal under the zoning is to identify those agricultural uses that have protection under the New York State Ag and Markets Law because they are located within a state-certified agricultural district. And those other agricultural uses that are not within a state-certified ag district, but exist in the town and may be located in an A40 zoning district. Outside of a state-certified agricultural district, municipalities can regulate agricultural activities to a greater degree. Within a state-certified ag district, the State Ag and Markets Law has the general rule that municipalities cannot zone in a manner that the state deems to be an unreasonable restriction on agricultural activities. So if you're in a state-certified ag district and you're a operation, you can be zoned, but they are necessarily less restrictive. I'll give you this example. Ag and Markets will say, most ag uses don't need to come in front of this board. You can require some site plan for things with ag uses, but it has to be a very simplified, quick site plan review. But if you're not within a state-certified agricultural district, the law in New York says a municipality can regulate the use. And we have a lot of that in the town of Brunswick, where you're in an A40 district, you do have ag uses, but they're not located in a state-certified ag district. The proposed amendments would treat those differently, and there's some just additional regulation dealing with ag uses in an A40 district, but not protected as a state-certified ag district. Because recall, in Brunswick, if you're in an A40 district, you can have a single-family home, and there's a lot of that in town where it's a single-family home next to an ag field. And that ag field may not be in a state-certified ag district, and the town's proposing to have some additional regulation for that. But there were some comments. That letter principally from Mr. Bolson's attorney deals with the proposed ag use.
Yeah.
Regulations.
Okay, moving forward, is there any discussion that anybody wishes to say about the new proposed zoning laws as you've had to review them from front to back?
Well, I don't have time on all of my comments, but I did have a question about the new determination of, I lost my train of thought. Where we're using code-based? Yeah, I got this term. No. Talking about restricting the amount of developable land,
Oh, the restrained land?
restrained land.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Restrained, constrained, I can't remember what the term
for
was.
some reason I didn't hear much, or I'm not finding it there.
No, no, leave it over. Okay. So first, it's in the definitions. And yes, the first term is, go to the B's, is base density.
Thank you.
And that's,
And is this only pertaining to residential lands? Or is this
let's
only?
see, let's go to 160-21, that's ultimately where we go. So if we go to 160-4, you're in the red line version? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's at page 36. Density calculation. Unless otherwise indicated, the following process shall be used to calculate the number of two-family and multifamily dwelling units that may be built on a parcel, and to determine the maximum number of new parcels that may be created through subdivision. That's what it's applicable to.
Okay.
But your point's well taken. That could be a commercial subdivision,
Yeah,
simply for residential purposes.
and then further down, it talks about in calculating the base density under C2A, lands with slopes of 15% or greater. And in definitions, we have definitions for steep slope, which is 20% or greater. I just wonder if those two things might not be the same, should be the same. 15% is all over the town of Brunswick, and I wondered if somebody actually did a little study of that, because,
Or the rolling hills.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair
I
point.
imagine that there's, I don't know, I'm thinking
That's the what I work.
60% of the land in the town of Brunswick is probably greater than 15%.
That's a good point, whether it's considered here 15%, but there's another definition, existing, not proposed to be amended, for steep slope.
Right,
That's 20%.
that's 20%.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with this whole regulation in terms of its practice. It's a good practice to look at a parcel wholly with all of its constraints and develop it based on that, not just, because I think like the one we just approved for Leon would be a much different development if this bulk density was
Yeah.
put before us.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to it, I just think that it should be consistent throughout the document. And most of the other comments that I had were on the existing, not in the revised parts. I did find my answer about roosters, it only applies to residential, I was a little
Yeah.
concerned that
In
you
ag.
couldn't have any roosters in the town of Brunswick. Just wanted to, Make sure we can still have chickens.
Chicks.
Chicks and chicks. Other than that, no major comment about.
So the written comment period still runs through, I think, August 1, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Mhm.
So there could be more comments coming in. One of the things to consider is if the board wants to put together some kind of writing back to the town board, even if it's in the nature of we reviewed it, deliberated on it, that one point is well taken, but have no other significant concern regarding the amendments. However you want to handle that, maybe we can wrap that up at your August 4th meeting and get that put together in August. And by the August 4th meeting, we'll see what other written comments, if any, roll in.
When's the deadline? August 1st?
August 1st.
And then should we
We've
also
received 0 so far.
sort of be making a rolling list of the other things that we see that,
Well, what's interesting, if you have them, I don't think a lot of these amendments have come up because the building department kept that exact kind of rolling list when issues came up, so it's always useful to raise them because the building department maintains them, and this is an ongoing process. If things need to be amended, the board can handle that going forward, so.
like that bank parking, it's kind of sort of addressed one place and then it's addressed again in another place.
Is it in the parking regulation?
It's in the Article 6 supplemental regs, under 160-44.
Off-street parking and loading standards, okay.
And then there's parking reserve area. The planning board is authorized to approve parking reserve areas. And I wrote banked parking.
Is it defined, parking reserve area?
It does say or bank, or to bank land,
Oh.
to meet potential future parking. It's
So
letter
does this
F,
apply to Olson?
yes.
We don't need a variance.
They will not need a variance for the parking.
It's
Plan gets in there, so the planning board has the authority.
That's why you get to the books.
All right. Okay, then that concludes our agenda. Under new business, did we receive something? Different waiver or something?
We just talked about
I
that.
think that was Mr. Bernini or Mr. Santoro's
Oh, that's right, okay.
that
Yeah. All right.
we had laid down as old business, but actually was current agenda.
Just under like, old business, Atlas Renewables is, coming back supposedly to address all the comments at our joint public hearing. Does anybody have any comments that they are looking for or answers from the Atlas Renewables based on the public hearing? Public hearing was kind of rambled a little bit. I was a little surprised that there wasn't more questions on what the owner of the property, being Tom Murley, is going to do with the rest of it. That seemed to me like it should have been more of a concern of the residents of Brunswick Meadows. And he wasn't here. In fact, just briefly, towards the end of the public hearing, one person made a comment about Mr. Murley, and wanted to know if he was here. He was obviously. I heard comments after the fact that they thought that it was said at the public hearing that the presentation wasn't that good. I heard that from some other people, that it wasn't presented enough, large enough to really get a good grasp of what was going on. It was too, But, based on some of the other presentations, and some of the information that's provided to the public, I didn't think he did that bad of a job. He was getting hit pretty hard at the end there, all kinds of weird things, but I thought he handled it pretty good. But is there anybody that has any concerns about some of the comments, or that they really want Atlas removals to address?
I thought Chairman Clemente did a good job in summarizing the list of things that they were supposed to do, being asked to do.
Yep.
And then I don't know if there were any others that came in, but they have to go through the meeting minutes, plus her list was in the meeting minutes, so they would have to address that, and I felt like that list in and of itself is pretty comprehensive. And as far as the presentation is concerned, I think, if those people from the audience were here 5 years ago, presentations were much different 5 years ago than they are today, and I think people's expectations of a presentation is something more glamorous than most engineers are used to putting together for something like this.
Okay.
I thought his presentation was fine. And we have people who bring up hand-drawn, black and white prints for other presentations. And so we don't have a standard for what the presentation is supposed to be.
Well, one of the
I
things
think we should have.
One of the things with the solar presentations that we try to be consistent with is the,
Visual assessment.
visual assessment. And I think that's primarily the real concern about people. They just don't want to look at it. Even though it doesn't do anything, it doesn't make any noises, contrary to popular opinion that these people can hear. It doesn't really interfere with the wildlife. Wildlife goes through these things like, nothing. Deer goes over those fences like nothing. Coyotes go underneath those fences like nothing. But one of the things that I brought up at the public hearing was, and made them specify, was the use of pesticides and herbicides. Because there is wells around there. Some of the residents on Liberty have wells, I believe. I think they have public water. So those are some of the things I think we ought to, as a board, be very cognizant about, making sure these solar, and we're going to get some more of these solar panels, believe it or not. Okay. And so I thought he handled it pretty well, but I was surprised that there wasn't more people from High Point. I thought there'd be a better contingency from High Point than there would be from.
Are they within 300 feet?
They get noticed.
They were not within 300 feet. They're
That's
on
why
that,
maybe
on
we
that
should do
one
it.
back corner, my 300-foot sweep put the last 4 buildings of Brunswick Meadows into it. And that,
Does anybody know, I mean, this is just general conversation, that if Merle expect is going to put like a phase 2?
I've asked Tom Murley about that, and I've asked to get the drawings for that, because I was speaking with one of the gentlemen that were here and asked him if he knew what the proposed plans were, and he did not. And so I'm trying to get a print of what that proposal is. I guess Mr. Murley had a problem sending it to me because of the size of the file, but I'm trying to acquire that.
I mean,
Because I'd like to know, like you-
Would some of these comments basically be that the public says, if he's gonna put a phase 2, that's gonna be between phase 1 and the solar farm.
Exactly, that's what I'm
You know,
looking to do, and that's what I think is going to
A lot of
happen.
these comments are like, okay.
I've got one picture that he gave me that shows an access road.
But I thought it would have been more important to have Mr. Burley here.
I don't think you want to be here.
No.
You're asking questions he doesn't have the answers to. He's got a mall with no tenants. Yeah, you're gonna build a,
Yeah, but he did the condos, he did the country meadows.
yeah, and those people are the deer standing over in the solar field looking back and going, how can we put the damn condos there? Because that was our field. We moved us out of there. So it's like, I mean, we've been here 3 years now, and now you want to put a solar field in.
Just ironically, the name of it is Deer Crossings Estates.
Can't make this.
As
All
far
right.
as the visuals, going back to the visuals for this project, I thought that they were subpar. Even though they were like glammy and yeah, did the flyover. But, you know, there is a sort of industry standard for visual simulations, and those aren't it.
Okay.
Well, they had separate visual assessment than just the video.
Yeah,
They didn't show that.
The people at the end took into text and used that. But I never really got a clear understanding of what they wanted beyond what he had already presented. He just said it wasn't adequate.
Right.
So what is adequate?
Should we develop a standard for visual assessments?
I would say no. No.
No?
I would not suggest it. If the information you get in a visual impact assessment is not adequate, to ask for further information. You're right, there's an industry standard. There's a technical folks who know what they're doing, know how to put these together. So
So I'm a
rather
little
than,
bit confused. You think that this guy did not follow the
well, he
industry
just did
standard?
it in a different way.
Okay.
You know, it's a more salesy approach, but as Ian said, he did a whole another piece to it that wasn't presented to the public. And there's a lot to doing visual simulation and making it accurate.
Yeah.
And, you know, that some of the questions that come up, like, these trees don't necessarily exist. Well,
How do we know that?
there's ways to go about doing that.
Well, there was a visual assessment done, and
Yeah.
they did show what it looked like from the condos. So all you have to do is just bring that up and show it.
It's computer done.
But yeah, it's computer time.
All right.
that'll impact your presentation.
Okay, does anybody have any other old business? Just quickly review the agenda. We got Atlas Renewables and Whitbeck. And then we have Paulson.
Bernini.
Renita. Santoro, no, wait a second.
The Allard.
The Allard.
Yeah.
The Lar, or Allard, the Bronson, and Santoro. So we have 6 items, plus a continued discussion on the amendments, and we're going to
And also
Brunswick Acres at the end of that as well.
Brunswick Acres. What's the story with Sillis?
We'll wait for a day before the next meeting and Russ will call.
Okay, is there any question on the agenda? Okay, then I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Come on now, who's opposed? Come on. And I'll conclude our video with that.
9 o'clock.
Heading down to North Carolina.